everybody, Soul and Shine Nola here. You know, I haven't been doing thoughts of the weekend. I've been getting busy with work and everything else, and family, and other obligations and responsibilities that I have. And you know, there's been so much going on in the news that I really wanted to get to, and it's just amazing everything that's happening and how much people are just not paying attention. I can't even believe everything going on in the world, and it just seems like we're not focused on the right things. I subscribe to the Sovereign Man blog, and one of the things I noticed I was reading just the other day here was things that you can expect that'll be coming from the government soon. And you know, they talk about, they kind of narrow it down into 8 steps from the government's playbook. And basically, we see this playing out around the world. You see this going on in Cyprus, you see it going on coming up next in Italy and Spain, and possibly coming to the United States sometime down the road. I mean, people didn't think it would happen in these other countries, and it's happening. You know, it's going to be a snowball effect. It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger until the whole system just comes crashing down. So what are these things that are in the government's playbook? Well, 1, direct confiscation. You know, you see this in Cyprus. You see it coming. You know, Cyprus, they started off saying, we want 10%, 9% of all accounts, or 9% of all accounts over 100,000 euros. Now they're just straight up saying 40%. They came... They said 9%. The people had a fit. Now they want 40. Now they're just going to take it. It's just amazing that the plundering going on, it's not even comical, to say the least. It's just amazing. And then people just pretend like, well, it really couldn't happen here, right? You know, we saw that with gold back in the 30s. You saw that where it was going to be illegal, and they wanted all the gold, and you had to turn in your gold, and they gave you a fixed price for it. And it wasn't even worth, you know, what the gold was. It's just, you know, they had to have control. They had to have the wealth. And so how do they get it? Through the criminalization of owning gold. So this could happen in the United States. Think about your 401ks and your treasury bonds and even stocks for all intents and purposes. The number 2 thing the government has in their playbook is taxes. It's just another form of confiscation. Taxation plunders the hard work and talent of all citizens. You know, but thanks to the brainwashing, it's more socially acceptable. Look at how many people are crying, you know, tax the rich even more and more and more. Take everything they've got. They're not paying their fair share. If I hear someone say fair share one more time, I'm going to punch them in the face. It's amazing how skewed and warped our view of fairness has become. Not to say that the rich aren't getting away with something. We'll talk about that some other time here, probably in another video tomorrow or later tonight. You know, we've come to regard tax as a necessary evil, and we haven't even realized that, you know, we existed for decades without any taxes at all. People think that, you know, government in a country can't survive without income tax. That's just not true. Another way that the government controls you is through inflation. It's an indirect confiscation, if you will. It's a slow, gradual plundering of your savings. Think about how little your value has increased. I was reading another article about how 90% of all households in this country from 1966 to 2011, you know what the increase in today's dollars is? From 1966 to 2011, the net wealth increase in American homes, $59. We'll talk about that one also in that other video, I'm sure. Capital controls. This is something most people don't understand. Government will restrict the free flow of capital across borders. That's people trying to move funds from one country to another, assets from one country to another. They'll prevent you from moving your own money to a safer jurisdiction. You know, there's a lot of people saying, oh, you need to change your wealth over from monetary instruments and over into precious metals and things, and they'll tell you how to store these valuables in foreign countries overseas. And the reality is that's just almost impossible if they put capital controls in effect. Just look what's going on in Europe, where they limit how much you can withdraw and move around. Think about how there's instead of drug sniffing dogs at the borders, there's cash sniffing dogs smelling for cash. Try to keep people from moving cash out of the country. There's also wage and price controls is the 5th way the government can control you. When even the lowest common denominator in society realizes that prices are getting higher, government stepping in and fix things by imposing price controls. Sometimes they'll even do this with wage controls, though wage increases tend to be vastly outpaced by price increases. Think about it, when they start putting price controls in effect, it's usually after they've already doubled or tripled from what they normally are, and your wages, well, they never catch up, right? I mean, most of us see that every day in and day out. Your wages don't keep up with the price of fuel and food and everything else, just going up and up and up. One thing that we can learn, though, from history is that price controls just never work. They almost always lead to shortages and massive misallocation of resources. Just think Mao and Stalin and how they were able to kill off tens of millions of their own people by misallocation of resources. But we don't learn from history, right? And we forget it. It's ancient history. We're going to do it different and we're going to do it better this time, right? Never going to happen. So when the first wage and price controls don't work, the next step is to just do it on steroids, just really jack up the controls. In the days of Diocletian's edict on prices in the 4th century AD, Rome had these price controls, and if you were caught violating the price controls, you were put to death. Think about that. Sounds kind of familiar, you know, why else would we need all those drones flying around in the US, right? This guy's violating price controls. He's charging too much, he's charging too little. You know, no more violation of price controls. Another way that the government loves to get in and start messing with things as things start going south, increased regulation. Anybody out there seen any increased regulation lately? You know, despite being completely broke, governments will dramatically expand their ranks. You know, you see that with all these new government agencies they keep creating, you know, Consumer Protection Agency or whatever that one, the CFPT or something like that. I don't even really know what it is. Most people don't. They kind of forget about that was created under the banking regulation that Barney Frank and company put together. Another government bureaucracy that's been created and people just thrown in to help try to figure out what the problem is and how they're going to solve it. You know, in the early 1920s, for example, the number of bureaucratic offices in the Weimar Republic increased 242%. Just think about how all the increases in regulation and the government agencies to monitor everything you do, what you drink, what kind of sodas you drink, how much salt you put in your body, what kind of pollution you're putting into the air, what kind of gas you have, what you can eat and smoke and drink, and what guns you can buy. It takes a lot of government employees to regulate all that and stay on top of you. Probably have more people watching over us that we're paying for than we're watching them. It's sickening, actually. And last but not least, the number one, or the last-ditch effort of most governments when all the above things seem to fail: war and a national emergency. Just invade another country. Pick a fight. Keep people distracted by working them into a frenzy over men in caves or, some completely irrelevant island. It's sad that more and more people don't realize what's going on. And, you have to think about what you're going to do to protect yourself from these kind of situations. It might mean that you need to think about alternative currencies. That could be anything from gold, silver, bullets, guns, food. Things like that can definitely be a barter tool in the future. You never know when you're going to need to barter for your own survival. Any of the items here could be used for barter. That's something you want to think about, that maybe, you might want to find a way to get some more things to stock up on and put away. People say that preppers are crazy, but I don't know. All that stuff that you're prepping for and putting away might actually come to good use someday. What will that buy you? People talk about the precious metals. I'm not that a big a collector of gold and silver. I've got my share of it, but I'm not. That's not something I'm not like some people that think that's what you have to have and that's all they're going to buy. I'm more about food and bullets. I need to be able to eat. I need to be able to protect myself, and those things have more use to me than the shiny stuff. Unless we're talking about this kind of shiny stuff, because that stuff always has a purpose, right? Anyway. Just something to think about. Keep an eye on what's going on in Europe. And don't forget our stock market all-time high, just Ben Bernanke, just working the old hamster there at the money printing company. That is the Federal Reserve. So, yeah. Take a look around. Think about these things. Think about what you're going to do. Don't be complacent listening to the government when they keep telling you that everything's getting better, when you can look around the world and see that things are not getting better. You've got all these countries mad at each other. Cyprus is mad at Germany. Germany's mad at France. And Russia's mad at Germany. Everybody's getting mad at everybody for the situation going on. Because think about, in Cyprus, a lot of the money in those banks was Russian money. There's some pretty angry people all around. And they're talking about taking 40% of those accounts. And those accounts are holding money that's, I hate to say Russian mobsters, but, people in Russia who hold some sway over things in that country. You can bet there's going to be some consequences to that. Anyway, that's all I got. I'm going to keep it short. Let me know what you think. Do a video response on this topic if you like. You leave a comment. Catch y'all later. SOS out.